I'm going to explain my Twitter handle. As Gail mentioned, I worked in Hanoi for 10 years, and there I loved bún chả and nem, which is northern Vietnamese spring rolls. I haven't been able to find them in Adelaide, so if anyone knows where you can find bún chả or nem, tweet me at my handle. I love it. Okay, so the case study that you'll hear about now is Fund My Community, an online PB program developed and delivered right here in South Australia. And the great thing about coming after Shari is that you've already heard a bit about PB. So I'm not going to explain PB to you. Instead, I'll explain why we're using a digital approach to PB here in South Australia. So through Fund My Community, $1 million is available to not-for-profit, non-government organisations to undertake projects or deliver services to address disadvantage. So you might be wondering why we use PB and involve the community in this decision making. There are lots of reasons, but for me, the data on disadvantage is the most compelling. This shows that despite governments investing multi-millions of dollars to address disadvantage, we've hardly moved the needle in the past decade. And I think a contributing factor to that is that we haven't involved communities in the decision making about the projects or the services that are funded. Instead, we've left the decisions to the so-called experts. Fund My Community goes some way to addressing that. Through Fund My Community, we invite communities to decide how public monies are spent. So first, a quick snap of some key data. So far, we've delivered 2 funding rounds. We've received 180 applications, requesting almost $10 million in funding. We've funded 29 projects, allocating nearly $1.9 million of the $2 million available, and about 10,000 people have been involved in the project, with half of those directly involved in the decision making. So what is Fund My Community? In some respects, it's very similar to other grant programs. Organisations apply for funding for a project or a service that will address disadvantage. Applications are then screened against the program's eligibility criteria, and all eligible projects are considered for funding. It's the decision-making process that Fund My Community diverges significantly to the standard government grant programs, as it's here that we involve the public. The community review the projects and select the ones that they think will have the most impact on disadvantage. We then aggregate the selections of all the participants, and those projects that receive the highest support are verified and offered funding. So the funding allocation is completely decided by the community. This sounds pretty simple, right? And in many respects it is. And it seems so obvious. Involve the public in decision making, the best way to allocate funds to address social issues in our community. But therein lies the complexity. How do you engage and support the community in that decision making within the available resources? As Shari mentioned, it's all about design. And in this quote, no doubt Steve Jobs was talking about an iPad or an iPhone or something funky, but it's equally relevant to designing PB programs. The complexity is that we are asking the community to put themselves in the shoes of the government and to invest the funding to the best advantage of the state. In essence, we are asking the participants to be deliberative, to weigh up the options, to consider the consequences, and to make choices. That might mean not supporting a project of an organisation with which they are affiliated, or not selecting a project that's going to be delivered in their community. The other complexity is that we have to deliver the program within the allocated resources. We all know that public budgets are shrinking and we have to do more with less. So to achieve these objectives and balance their inherent competing nature, we've adopted a digital approach. Fund My Community is completely online, delivered through a purpose-built tool. All applications are submitted online and the funding is allocated through the online tool. By using a digital platform, we have been able to balance participation and administration considerations and achieve a fair and equitable funding outcome. The digital tool allows us to address 3 key issues. 1, access. 2, bias in the participants. And 3, knowledge and awareness. So first and most obviously, by using digital, we can reach and involve people from across the state. South Australia is a big state. It's nearly 1 million square kilometres, but our population density is low at 1.7 persons per square kilometre. So a digital process allows us to overcome the barrier that our geography presents. This heat map shows the clusters of participants from the second round of funding. The blue, red and yellow blobs show higher levels of participation. But it's a little deceiving because the white space doesn't mean there were no participants, just that they were lower than the other areas. For example, we know that we had participants from the southeast to the far north. Digital also allows people to participate at a time that suits them. If they are working or a student, they can take part in the evenings or on a weekend. Or if they are retired or are predominantly at home, for example with home duties, they can take part during the day. And they don't have to take part in just one sitting. They can come in and out of the tool as many times as they like, and the tool will automatically save their selections to that point. Secondly, digital allows us to incorporate features to help participants overcome their biases, whether they are conscious or unconscious. For those of us old enough to remember the yellow pages, you'll recall business names such as AAA Aardvark Cleaning, so named to get the first spot on the listing and therefore take advantage of placement bias. By using a digital tool, we can overcome this. In Fund My Community, projects display randomly. So each time a user lands on the page, different projects load. That means that each user is introduced to projects in a different order. No project is advantaged or it's disadvantaged by its position on the page. Digital also allows us to overcome the participants' inherent biases. We might not want to admit it, but we all have biases. For example, we might be biased towards or against a certain organisation, community or population group. We probably lean more to the left or the right. So in Fund My Community, we've been able to build a sophisticated digital tool with a set of minimum criteria that participants have to meet in order to take part and influence the funding outcome. We require participants to choose projects to benefit at least 4 different population groups, allocate between $700,000 and $1 million, and choose projects of different sizes. This promotes a broad cross-section of projects, population groups, and communities benefiting from the funding. Importantly, this addresses the popularity contest concern that so many people have with using this approach. By requiring participants to meet the 3 criteria, they are forced to consider the broad range of projects vying for funding. And the digital tool has allowed us to incorporate elements to build participants' knowledge of disadvantage and create value for applicant organisations. We've included educative elements from individual project pages, providing a single-click pathway for people to learn about disadvantage. So we are building awareness of disadvantage within the broader community. And the benefits of the digital approach also extend to applicant organisations. The tool also provides a single-click pathway that directly links the participants with applicant organisations, therefore increasing the community's awareness of them and their work. Participants can follow a link from an applicant organisation's application page to their newsletter, their website, their volunteering sign-up page, or donation page. Nearly 1/4 of organisations from the first funding round reported receiving some type of additional advantage through their participation. This could be intangible, such as increased web traffic, new subscribers or Facebook followers, or tangible, such as financial or in-kind donation, or new volunteers. But of course, digital is not a complete panacea, and some challenges or opportunities remain. These include engaging with people with low levels of digital or English literacy, or those that have limited access to the internet. What if we could address these? And I think with creative thinking, coupled with more technology, we can. For example, earlier this year, we tested translation software in the tool. Unfortunately, the quality that we got back wasn't strong enough for us to use, but I don't think it will be too long before the software improves to a level that we can include it. So it's something that we'll keep looking at. Internet access is also always continually improving. whether it's greater connectivity through more free Wi-Fi spots or addressing black spots, or faster speeds and greater connectivity, more people are connected than ever before. And we're addressing we're addressing access issues by engaging with digital hubs and public libraries to provide spaces for people to take part using public access computers. We can also use technology to increase the participation of those who are excluded by digital literacy rather than digital access. We've been working with a team of university students to develop an instructional video that takes people step by step through how to take part. And we can use technology to have the video load automatically when a new user comes to the site. So it won't rely on the user knowing that they have to search for help. The help will pop up in front of them. We use technology to provide a live chat desk. A user can ask a question, and in real time, we can respond, whether it's about an application or the process, how to take part. So I think technology has a role to play in overcoming some of the barriers to participation. I'm almost out of time, but I want to quickly go through some of the outcomes before I finish. Now, I quite deliberately chose this image because I'm very sceptical about claims of success. For example, you won't ever catch me clicking on a button that's going to share the secrets to a flat tummy in 6 weeks. Or to join a scheme that promises I'm going to be able to give up my day job within 6 months. Not that I'm thinking of doing that, Gail. But I can confidently say the Fund My Community is achieving its objectives. Through analysing lots of data, we know that participants are being deliberative. Google Analytics tells us that participants will look at multiple projects before they start selecting the ones that they want to fund. And on average, they spend more than half an hour on the page. Our analysis also shows that there's a weak correlation between a person's affiliation with an organisation and the projects that they will then support. Go back. So in conclusion, our digital approach to PB is achieving the outcomes that we're after. We're engaging a cross-section of the community in decision-making and delivering a fair and equitable outcome, all within the program resources that we've been allocated. Thank you.